Let's take a look at TI-86, and actually let me zoom a little bit here. There we go. Okay. And let's take a look at y is equal to x. Now these are all the basic ones I do in algebra, and I know this isn't a professional video. Here we got the shading, but this is just for when my students come in and they bring in one of these oddball calculators. This is how you do basic graphing. So I'm turn my calculator on for one thing, and now there's a graph button. So I push this graph button, and you see across the bottom is a menu, and you see that says y of x. We'll press the F1 that's right below it, and that's how we choose that one. Now I'm going to want to choose X, so you see how there's on this first bar here, there's X and Y. If I want to do the X, then I just push the F1, the one below it. Now to get to the second menu now, this second line, you need to do your second button, and then push that. But anyway, I'll push the X, that puts the X there. Now the graph. How to get a pen. Graph is right here. It's on above it's in the second menu bar here. So we're going to push our second button one time, and then we'll push the F5 to access that. And there's our graph of y is equal to x. Okay, so now I want to go graph y is equal to x squared. So again, I'll push the F1 right below this bar where it says y of x. I'm going to press clear to clear out the line, and then I want x squared. Well, the x key is F1 again, like that, and then the x squared is down here, this button. So I'm going to push that, and then I want graph. Now graph is in the second menu option now. Now it won't always be in the second menu, so you can't like memorize that it's going to be second F5 every time, because if I were to push exit, well, now my graph is down on the first line, and now all we have to do is push the F5. So that's why you have to get used to just interpreting how to access this menu. So I'll push F5, and there's my x squared. Well, let's take a look at our x to the third. So I'll press y equals the F1, press clear, and then I'm going to do my x key. And how we do a power on the calculator is a caret, and that's right here. So do caret, and then 3. And I want graph. Graph is in my second bar now, so I'm going to do my second F5. And there's my y is equal to x to the third. Now y is equal to x to the 1/2. Anytime you got more than a single number or a single variable in your exponent, you need to put parentheses around it. So let me push F1 to access the y of x. Now press clear to clear whatever's in that line. I'm going to press the this right here, but I could also see how there's an X var here. If you push that, that does the X key too. Then caret, and then we have to put parentheses. So we do beginning parentheses 1 divided by 2, and then closing parentheses, and then graph. Graph is in the second bar here, so I do second F5. Slow. There it goes. Okay, now the square root of x. I'm going to go back to my y equals, so I'll push the F1, do a clear. Down here, there's an x squared button, and above that is the square root symbol. To get to that, you do your second button, and then the x squared. And you always want to put beginning parentheses on this, so do beginning parentheses x, and then closing parentheses. So no matter what's underneath the square root, you want to put parentheses around it. And I want to access the graph, which is on the second menu, or second bar there. So I'll do second F5. And that gives us that. Well, let's graph, go back to my y equals. Let's graph the cube root. So I'm going to press clear, and then I'll put my 3 in. And we got a math option here. See where your multiplication is. To get to that math, I do second button and then the multiplication. And then you'll see that your bar changed across the bottom here. And there's a miscellaneous over here on the far right, and that's F5. So we'll push F5. And you see how then there's more choices here. And there's a little arrow over here. So press more, the more button right here, to go over to the right. Now this one is a radical with an X as the index. So that's the one I want. Now by putting the 3 in first, that puts the index in first. And now I'll do a beginning parentheses, and then my X key. X key is now on my second line here, so I do second F1. And closing parentheses, and then I want to graph it. Now I don't see graph here, do I? So let's go ahead and exit out of the math option. And you see graph is here now. So we'll do second F5. It came out with TI-86. I wouldn't say it's exactly an improvement over TI-84 or TI-83. That made a lot of things harder. So anyway, let's look at the fourth root. So I'm press my F1 to go into the Y equals. Do clear. And the same way as the cube root, we have to put our index in first. So I'll put 4 in. And then that was underneath our math. So I do second and then our multiplication. I have to go to the miscellaneous option. So I'll push F5. And it's not on this menu choice, so press more, the more button. And then that's be the F4. I do a beginning parentheses, my X key, I can do X bar here, closing parentheses, and now graph, and I don't see graph there, so again I have to exit out to get back to where I can see graph, and I'll do second F5. And that's our fourth root of X. If it ever comes back. It's slow. Okay, there it goes. Well, now let's look at our absolute value of X. So go to F1, press my Y equals to go back there. Press clear. I need to go to my math menu again, so I'll do second and then the multiplication. And you see how the first option here says num. Well, that's what we want to go into, so we'll press F1. And see across the bottom here, they got round, I part, F part, INT, and then ABS. The ABS is what we want, so we want to push F5. Now it puts absolute value, and we always want to put the beginning parentheses here. And then we'll do X key, and then we'll put our closing parentheses. Now I want a graph. I don't see graph on my option here, so I'm going to exit out. And now I'm going to do a second and then F5 to access the graph. And there's our absolute value. Now I want to graph the last one, which is a fraction. And specifically, if you have more than a single X or single number in top or bottom of your fraction, you have to put parentheses around top and or bottom. So let's go back to my Y equals. So I press F1. Press clear. I'll do a beginning parentheses. X plus 3, so X plus 3, closing parentheses, then divided by, and then beginning parentheses, and then X minus 1, closing parentheses. To access the graph, again it's here on the second line, so we're going to do second F5. Now that vertical line is not actually part of your graph. It's a flaw with the calculator. So when you go to graph that, you wouldn't want to write that down. And that's the basics of graphing on a TI-86.